Good morning, welcome everyone once again to the Spanish Breakfast Show live on YouTube Spain. I am Skatz, and in today's show we're starting something a little new and special. If you're a regular watcher, you'll know that I have the same expert guest on every 2 weeks. That's Chris from Upsticks. And if you've been listening carefully, you'll also know that it's now only 6 weeks until Liz and I move to Spain. So including today, there are 4 shows left with Chris, including the weekend of the move. And that show is going to have to be recorded because I'll be on a boat. So we decided to do a moving to Spain countdown every 2 weeks. And this week we're going to look at what you can do 1 year in advance of moving, or more than 1 year in my case. And we'll compare my situation as an EU citizen with someone who's applying for the Non Lucrative Visa. You can ask your questions live right now on the chat box, or if you're not watching live, you can make comments in the comments below. Either way, you'll get answers. And my lovely wife Liz is with us on under U2 Aromatherapy. There she goes. She says, "Good morning, everyone. Excited to be part of today's show. Any questions for me? I'm happy to answer." So this is about Liz as well. So yeah, you can ask her questions, and we will be reading out you. Good morning, Roy, and good morning, Emily. So one final thing before we begin, you can support this channel by finding the link below to our merchandise page and getting yourself a hoodie or a t-shirt or a mug or a phone case or anything else like that. So without further ado, let's meet my guest for the day. It's Chris from Upsticks. Good morning, Chris.
Morning, how you doing?
I'm very good. I'm feeling maravilloso. Been practicing my Spanish.
Yes, congratulations on your A1.
Yes, I've got a qualification from Busu, which is a good app. I shouldn't be advertising them. I'm not getting anything from them, but except I quite like the way it works. So there you go. There's an advert for them. Anyway,
brilliant.
Good subject today. We're beginning a countdown. So we're going to look back at the sort of things people should be considering when they've got a year or more before they move. So this might be quite general because there's not a lot of paperwork you can do when it's that far off. But I guess it's all about making that decision. So we're going to be asking each other questions, which is a bit different, and comparing notes and chatting. And you're going to talk about what it's like from your perspective. And so this should be fun.
Yeah, definitely. I'm looking forward to also hearing you. As I think we were saying when we were chatting this week, that sometimes when you're here, like for us who are here in Spain, and I've been here 20 years, we sometimes lose perception of what it's like for somebody who before they come and live here, you know. And so I think it's really important actually that, you know, these kind of chats, because it not only helps guys who are looking over to help people coming to move, it helps people like us who have been here years and years dealing with people looking to come over, but we have lost that perception of what it's like, you know. So, and it's interesting. So yes, I'm looking forward to hearing from the other end, you know, what happens the year before.
Yeah, I'll just start the ball rolling in a minute on that. We're going to say good morning to Donna, who has a year to go. So this is perfect for her. And she's saying, actually, we were talking about this very thing. She says, as Upsticks don't cover Alicante, can anyone recommend someone who does? But you were talking about you occasionally do, don't you?
If it's for visa purposes, then we can cover. What we can't cover is people on the ground in Alicante and EU residencies. We're actually currently trying to find a service partner up there who can help us out. And the reason being is the EU residencies, the nuances between the police stations are incredible. So for a non-lucrative visa, for example, we can manage that completely remotely across Spain. That's not a problem, because by the time you get to Spain, it's pre-qualified and it's more of a functional process than actually going in and having a fight with the police. Whereas somewhere an EU residency, you really do have to know what the local nuances are with the police for the requirements. So, for example, here in Malaga, we know every single police station and the differences and things that they ask for. In Granada and Almeria, we know. But in Alicante, if it's anything to do with EU, although we could advise generally what people need, so we know the monetary and health insurance side of things, it's really hard to actually hit the nail on the head in terms of what they're going to ask for, because we've never been. So.
There you go. I'll tell you what.
Yeah,
Let's. I'll get the ball rolling with what happened to me and Liz. Well, year and a half ago, and we'll go from there. That
cool.
what was happening. This was back in. Let's go back to December 2019, before this whole mad year happened, and it was kind of a series of events that collided. It was like a perfect storm for me and Liz, and it sort of changed our lives. And I wonder if that happened to other people because of the lockdown. And before that all happened, my father died, and I was put on medication for diabetes. So I had this double sense of my own mortality. And before that, we'd been planning to retire to Spain about 10 years into the future, but with with the promise of a possible inheritance that came out of that, we thought, let's push it forward. We may as well do this now while we're still living and can appreciate it. And then of course the lockdown happened, so we couldn't do any work anymore after that, and we didn't know how long that was going to last, like nobody did. So it left us feeling
Wow.
quite uncertain about the future, and we had loads and loads of time to think. And also, because of the diabetes, we both decided, let's get fit and lose a lot of weight. Actually, I'm going to show these pictures now. This is what I looked like about a year and a half ago, before the lockdown. The hair's all gone now, and that's a shocking picture on the right. Sorry about that for people who are having their breakfast right now. So yeah, a lot of changes can happen in a year and a half, and it just shows you that it says a lot about reinventing yourself. I think that this has been the change, not just because of COVID, but because of thinking about how to change our lives for the better in the future. So
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, most people came out of lockdown the other way around. I think they ended up like your first photo, with longer hair and more weight. I know I did, but
Yeah.
that's what's it like that when you first make that decision? So when you say, okay, then right in a year's time we're moving to Spain, it always interests me. This, what's the first point of call? So what do? Do you Google it? Do you go on YouTube? What's the very first thing you say? Okay, we've made this decision. What do we do now? Is it how do we do the paperwork, or is it where we're going to live? What's
Well,
how does that start?
the first thing is panicking and asking that exact question. What on earth do you do first? And we went on. We Googled a lot of things. We were already watching programs like A Place in the Sun, because we love those kind of shows, and we
Yeah,
love looking at houses and looking and saying, oh, we'd love to live in a place like that, whether it's in England or in Spain or wherever. So we were already kind of slightly aware of improving our lot. So I don't know, what did we do first? Liz? Here we go. We started. Here we go. This is what she said. Started by looking at houses to buy, which is totally the wrong thing to do.
it's
She's laughing out loud. Yeah.
it's funny you should say that, because I was just laughing there about you saying that you're looking at A Place in the Sun. When, like, for people who live here, I've seen A Place in the Sun a couple of times, and I've looked at people buying houses. Some of the houses are absolutely lovely. The houses, I'm thinking, why on earth would you want to live there? Well, that's going to be freezing in the winter. Or idyllic townhouses in the middle of villages, which look great on A Place in the Sun, but practicalities are you have to park at the bottom of a hill and walk a kilometre up, with 4 kilos of oranges, and there's only 5,000 people in the villages and one bar that closes for a month in August. So some of those programs can be a bit dangerous as well.
Yeah, yeah. And so I mean, it's a big thing. Exactly where in Spain, which part of Spain do you move to? I mean, we'd already been to Malaga for a short holiday for Liz's birthday, actually, and we'd been to Granada and the Alpujarras. We'd been to Orquiva, somewhere near there, and we loved it there. But it's a little bit too far from Malaga Airport. These are all things you consider. How are your relatives going to come and see you, or how are you going to be able to go back and see your relatives in the UK or friends in Ireland that we've got now? So you have to kind of narrow it down based on either where you've been or what you know. And Spain's a huge place. The north and the
Yeah.
south are completely different climates, aren't they?
Yeah, they are, and I think you're hitting the nail on the head there as well. When people are looking to come over, I think the location, depending on what you want to do. So first thing, obviously, if there is any health ailments or any need to be close to a hospital, you've got to look at that. That's the first thing, because if you want to enjoy retirement, if you're retiring, make sure the specialists are on your doorstep. This unfortunately, you can get lovely properties in the middle of nowhere, but if something happened to you, you are in the middle of nowhere. So, and then I suppose the work demographic as well. If people are coming to work, if you're, you need to be near a main road. That said, we do have a massive network of motorways. It is very, 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 you can be off the beaten track, but only 5 minutes away from motorway virtually anywhere in Malaga.
That's going to be different from what we're used to here, because the nearest motorway, because we're right on the west coast of Ireland, down near the bottom end, the nearest motorway is, well, it takes you, I don't know, an hour and a half to get to from here.
Wow, really?
So we're stuck. Well, I say stuck. It's a fantastic, beautiful, amazing, jaw-dropping place to be. But yeah, it takes us an hour and a bit to get to the local town where the huge supermarkets are.
Wow. Okay, though you'll get in Malaga, you can get away with being in the middle of nowhere, jumping on a motorway very soon. Yeah, so that's good. And what was when you first decided to come over? Then what was the first things you found? Like when you looked online, what was the first doubts that crept into your mind in sort of like information? Because obviously now you've got the channel and that's great, and people are finding you. But what did you find?
Well, I suppose I was lucky really, because at the start of the research, I think I'm the one that goes into all of the sort of the technical side and exactly what we've got to do and the forward advanced planning. I'm the anal one of me and Liz. So I look really hard at every single aspect of it, which is why I started the channel off, I think, so Wonderful. That I could make the research early, because it was just pounding on my brain that the things, what were the things? The finance, I suppose, was the big thing, because I wasn't sure at the time. There was this doubt in my mind that I could still be eligible for the Irish passport and the Irish citizenship. I'd applied for it beforehand, but it seemed like it was the wrong thing to do, to get the Irish passport and then get the hell out of the country, And I'd read somewhere that wasn't allowed. So when we first spoke to you, I was uncertain about that. So that was but that was a little bit down the line. I can't remember what month we spoke to you first, but it was
February, I think, February, March.
So
no.
Was it this year? Yeah, it was this year when we had our first phone call.
Yeah.
So but right at the start, I think we did the looking at houses. Oh, Liz has said Brexit. Oh, Brexit was the fear. Oh yeah, of course. The Brexit was it put the spanner in the works.
Yeah.
And that kind of made us think we've got to do this quick, but we can't get away before the end of this year. So that was the panic. I think there was the Brexit and COVID panic that hit, which I suppose is unusual. That's not going to happen to other people. If that hadn't been happening, what would have been the main thing?
That was. Yeah, you're caught up in that half. It was December 2019. I mean, between December 2019 and January 2021, it was a massive change in everything, paperwork and immigration. So you would have been swept away as uncertainty with that. But it's funny you touched on the money side of things there, because aside from the money you need to qualify, obviously you've got a budget for living here, haven't you, in your first year and everything. And I always tell people to budget whatever you think your expenditure is going to be for the first year, double it. until you get used to what you're doing, where you're shopping. It's crazy, because obviously there's some things which are ridiculously cheap and there's other things which are crazy expensive, like a like electric, for example.
Mm.
You know, so and I suppose it's really hard when you're looking to come over a year before you come to sort of even create a budget, you know, utilities, food, etc., until you're actually here.
Mm. Yeah, and a lot of people who go over wanting to have their favourite English foods, even just the baked beans and I don't know what it is, things like Marmite and things like that, that you can get them in Spain, but they're more expensive. It's certainly more expensive
Yeah.
than eating Spanish food. So yeah, you can end up spending quite a lot if you want to have a fry up every morning and you know, live like that.
You certainly can. I mean, it's a bit different to how it used to be. I mean, that obviously we've got here in Fingarola. No, I'll get shot for saying Fingarola. In Mijas, it's the other side of the motorway, not Fingarola.
Mm-hmm.
Stone's throw from Fingarola, the Iceland shop, which you know, I think there's 3 or 4 of them up the coast. You know, and there's a few. I know there's some independent suppliers up in El Grande who are here close to us, and there's a butcher's I think up there who's very good. In fact, I was given a pork pie from him the other day, which was amazing. So even I might be putting an order in there. So and it's really nice. But I think the good thing is, as long as you know, you can get it if you want it. So like where we live is a very Spanish area, but if we really, really fancy a day out a year and don't pretend to be tourists, we just duck into Fingarola and have a fried breakfast, you know. But I couldn't afford to go and buy British products every day, you know. And there's no real need to, you know. Spanish products are more than suitable now, you know, to even to like recreate a meal. So you know, we do a full roast dinner without having to go to any British shops. That's right.
Yeah, we've made the deliberate decision that we're going to eat Spanish, but I think it suits the diet that we're on. Where you know we were on the keto diet when that's a lot more. There's protein and fat and not very many carbs. so and Spain's very good for that. Well, certainly for the lots of meat anyway.
Yeah, no, it is. There's a lot of meat and vegetables. Obviously, it's a massive part of the diet. So there's no bread though, isn't it? Bread comes with everything here.
Yeah, we're just going to have to learn how to say no pan and
no pan, por favor.
No pan, no carbohidratos, no.
Yeah.
With my slightly Italian Spanish accent, carbohidratos. So I don't know how that's going to sound to Spanish people.
I wouldn't worry. I think that it's, you know, definitely I would recommend that anybody talking about language, anybody who's looking to come over starts learning Spanish beforehand and just don't worry, you know, too much about it. No one expects you to be perfect when you know, when you're here or even in 20 years time. You know, so it's just more of a making the effort than actually being perfect at Spanish the moment you touch down, you know.
I'd say that the thing to think about is that just listen to someone from Spain or someone from any country going over to Britain, and you'll find that you know, they don't conjugate the verbs properly. They tend to speak in the present tense most of the time because that's the first thing that you learn, and but you can still be understood, and that's the main thing. You've just got to dive in and do it. That's one of the big fears, I suppose, when you're thinking about moving. It's all right moving to Ireland from England because you know, although there is a very strong Irish language in this area, because we're in the Gaeltacht area, and a lot of people speak that, but they all speak English too. So it wasn't a problem here. But in Spain, it's like the first time we went to Spain, we came over the border from France, and in northern Spain, they don't speak English very much at all. In fact, they don't even speak Spanish most of the time because they speak in Galician or Basque or Catalan or something like that. That's what I prefer to do. So I felt lost there, and that made me panic and learn Spanish for the next time that we went. So I was kind of a little bit ahead of the game though, but I'm still a little bit afraid of what's going to happen.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I mean, I wouldn't worry. I mean, what all I'd say is it was when I first came 20 years ago, it was slightly different. There wasn't any sort of internet-based assistance. But I mean, I used to literally, when I first came, I didn't speak a word of Spanish, and I would go with like scripts to places. I would literally write out my piece of paper be bold, stand there in the butchers and just order for the 14th time my chicken wings, you know. So until I got it right, and they would laugh at me, but laugh with me, I should say, not laugh at me, and they'll, you know, just keep doing that. And I think instead of getting nervous about it, there's absolutely nothing wrong, and I tell everybody this, with having a piece of paper and having a go, you know. So even if you can't remember it in your head, then, you know, just have your script. Why not take it and try wherever you go, and eventually you'll dump that piece of paper.
Yeah, actually, I used the Google Translate on my phone. We went to a chemist shop. I think this was in Malaga, and because our son Oscar was, I don't know what he had. I think he needed some antihistamines, which is more or less the same in Spanish as it is in English, I think. But you know, we had to, and I said to the chemist, hablas inglés, and he said not very much now. So we did it all with phones, and he got on his phone and spoke in Spanish on that, and it came up in English, and we were both laughing at how terrible the translation was. So that's why the piece of paper is better. Sack the phone off. I'm a big advocate of sacking the phone off. You sack it off because you won't. I mean, it's crazy to say, like you're talking between Granada and Malaga, and the nuances in the language is completely different. You know, and there's words which are different, you know, which they'll use. So I mean, the digital aids are fantastic to get yourself understood, but certainly a pre-prepared thing in your head, and is I think it's a better way. That's how I learned. But yeah, I think anybody who's looking to come over, I use post-it notes a lot. I used to have post-it notes everywhere. You know, you stick them on a window, because guaranteed, if you read that 20 times, you'll remember it. Yeah. You know, so that helps me a lot. Post-it notes when I first got here, believe it or not. Part of the app is like flashcards, which is kind of the same thing. But yeah, I guess it fits. If you've got La Puerta on every door, then you're going to know the word soon.
Yeah, no, certainly it does help. So yeah.
Yeah, I made a list of things actually that of the sort of things that I was thinking of a year in advance, and maybe I'll just read this one out, and maybe you can say if there's anything different that people need to consider if they're wanting to get a visa, and whether this makes any difference at the time. So things like which part of Spain and why. I was thinking actually, why is it you want to move? Is it you want to make a life change, or is it that you just want the usual things, which is the weather, the food, and the relaxed lifestyle? And do you just want to kind of recreate the holiday that you've had there in the past? Because it's never going to be quite like that. It's never going to be quite as stress-free as sitting on a beach, because you know, if you're trying to run away from stress, although the atmosphere is there to make that easier, you're still going to have the stress of going to get your documents done and not being able to understand the language as much, and they're still there. So if you're a stressful person, I would say it's a good idea to sort yourself out. I know it's a horrible thing to say, sort yourself out, but you know, I mean, find ways of dealing with yourself as well. Get your mental health sorted in other ways as well, because Spain isn't going to solve that. I'm going to be writing an article all about that soon, about how moving and emigrating is a mental thing. So that's something
that's very interesting. It's funny you should say it, because I think that the why definitely determines the where. You know, so you know, the why is the where. So you know, I've got clients who, you know, would tell you, you know, I'm not particularly interested in living in a village in the middle of nowhere. I want to be where people speak English. I'll try my best at Spanish, but I do want to be in a predominantly expat area and enjoy my retirement speaking English in a sunny place. You know, that's absolutely fine. There's places which are you know, towns and areas, particularly across the soul, which are more adapted for that. And then there's people who really want to get away from something like that. So yeah, I think the why, and obviously you know, your mental health position as well, it definitely determines the where, you know.
Yeah, and it can tell you things about, you know, do you want to be in a tourist area or up in the mountains or in a little village not too far from the cities, or you know, in a little coastal fishing village or something like that. Do you want to be remote? Have you thought about what being remote means? Do you want to be near the expats or just somewhere totally away from them? Um, and thinking about your finances, whether you're going to buy a house or rent. Also about selling your house where you are now, if you're going to sell that, and also about how you're going to travel. I thought a lot about how we were going to travel to get to Spain. That was one thing that I thought well in advance, more in advance than we needed to, really, but it's worth considering the options. We eventually said, we've got a dog, we want to drive down so that we can keep the dog with us.
Right.
And that informed a lot about where we thought about, and you know, ending up, because we want to be fairly near a motorway so that the removal van isn't going to have to go up a road that's difficult for even a 4x4, you know. So
Yeah, that's you touched on something there, which is probably worth mentioning, was the financials. So that is something that we come across all the time with people, you know, who are getting prepared. It's just getting their house in order in terms of if you are moving to Spain permanently, making that switch from whatever your position is in the UK to however you decide to fund your life, or are going to be funding your life in Spain. It's very important. That is something you can actually start looking at a year before, can't you? So, you know, we don't deal with tax issues and stuff. We deal with immigration. But I know that certainly there's people, maybe pensioners, who have got products, who may be waiting for their lump sum out of a pension, or you know, or maybe selling a house to fund the trip, or you know, all things like that. That is something that actually a year in advance, I think you can start to look at and maybe speak to somebody about.
Yes, Liz is reminding me that people are asking questions on the chat. I should get on with that. And it's nearly time for you to go as well. So if you have to go, then I can answer some of these. Let's just pop up the list. Emily's about 18 months from moving, and she's in Ibiza now, and she doesn't want to go home. That's not a question, but yes, hello, Emily. And she's trying to obtain an Irish passport because one of her grandparents is Irish. That's brilliant, and she found that out from one of our videos. So brilliant. I'm glad to have helped there, Emily. If you need any advice on getting the passport, then you know where I am. Let's find a good question. Roy had a question actually that was, where is Roy's question? It's so far back. He's asking about the medical certificate for the non-lucrative visa. Is there a specific form, and is it as simple as asking your GP practice to complete the form for you?
There is. There's on all three consulates actually give advice, and it's exactly the same format in which it has to be presented, and it's a 50-50. It's one of these where you approach your GP, and if the GP says yes, we'll sign that for you, it's not a problem, then that's great, you've got that. And if they say no, unfortunately, you're probably going to have to go private and pay. But paying, you can get a certificate within 2 days.
Good stuff. Some people find it difficult to get their doctor to do it, and they have to go to a private one.
Yeah.
So it's good to check out with your doctor, but that's not the sort of thing that you can do a year in advance.
No, certainly not.
We'll be talking about that on not the next time we get together for this, but in 4 weeks' time, I think, when it's only 3 months to go.
3 weeks. 3 weeks.
Yeah. So how to get an NIE number was what Lady Jane was asking about, and somebody was saying, do you get that from the UK, or do you just get that once you get to Spain?
Again, it depends on your circumstance. So if you're going for a visa and you haven't got an NIE, you'll be given a visa. You'll be given an NIE number with your visa, and then when you come over here, you exchange that visa you register it for a TIE card, and it will figure the same number. If you're non-resident and you need an NIE number, you can either apply for one from the consulates in the UK or Ireland, or you can come over if you're here on a tourist visa and decide that you're going to buy a house but not become a resident. But you can get an NIE number here from the extranjería as such, or appoint someone to do it for you. And if you're quickly run through scenarios. If you're an EU citizen getting residency in Spain, there's a common myth that you have to get an NIE number first. If you're using self-employed registration, as I know somebody who's who's in that situation, who will be doing that, having to get an NIE number first, registering self-employed to qualify for residency, then you may have to get it first. Or if you're just retiring here and you qualify as an EU citizen, then you'll be awarded an NIE number with your residency card.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that's helped.
Yes, I think so. Lady Jane says, oh, is it? She's got loads of questions, actually. Is it easy to open a bank account in Spain?
It's, yeah, resident or non-resident. Again, it's one of those things where it's probably more easier in expat-focused areas if you're an expat to open an account than it is in the middle of Granada in a village you've never seen somebody who's an expat. It might take a bit longer. That's very dependent on the branch you use, whether it's easy or not.
And if you're going to be wanting a mortgage eventually, it's good to be with one of the bigger banks, I suppose, because they're the ones who give out the mortgages. Was that a good idea? Yeah, I think so. I mean, there's mortgage brokers as well. So, we've seen more and more mortgage brokers because the banks can be particularly useless when they're trying to deal with them directly. Sometimes it's just if someone's going to charge you a reasonable fee, it may be better just to get a broker to do it all for you. And what have we got here? Roy, is it worth, or do I need to apply for a TIE or NIE for a 90-day rental period? I'm not quite sure what he means there. Do you mean do you need to have a contract for rent in order to do that? Sure. Maybe you can make that clearer, Roy.
Yeah, yeah, I don't know what that means.
Yeah, okay then. And we have actually got to 10 o'clock. So if you need to go, Chris, I might hang around and answer some of these questions for people if I can, or if not, then I'll field them to you later and we can get them answers afterwards. Yeah, sure, definitely. Yeah, I'm so sorry I have to shoot off. I'm afraid the obligations start again now in the summer. So yes, back off. So got to get your boy to his golfing lessons again. That's right. Yeah, we've got to get him off. But yeah, anyway, we'll arrange a bit more time on the next one. But yeah, thanks for having me on. Yeah, you're welcome. And next time, in 2 weeks' time, we'll talk about kind of 6 months in advance when things are beginning to hot up and you have to start considering the finer details. So we will see you for that. So okay, everybody say goodbye to Chris. See you later. Bye bye for now. Bye bye. Whoops. There we go. So let's see if there's any questions here that I can answer. Liz, tell me who's got the questions. Is there anything that we haven't answered yet? Let me see. So Lady Jane, yes, you're going to Spain in 3 weeks to check out some places between Malaga and Almeria. Well, lucky for you. You want to move in autumn next year. It's good. It's good that you're looking a year in advance. I think the one thing I've learned is that because of our situation, because of the lockdown, I think that we had all of this time to look and prepare. It's really good to be prepared in advance, but there are some things that you can't really completely plan, and things like you've talked about opening a bank account. It's something that you can do. You can give power of attorney to somebody like Chris or a lawyer or something like that, and they can open a bank account for you, and they can set up your NIE number for you, even in advance of of going for your visa application. Like Chris was saying before, you get that on with your passport anyway. Not with your passport, but with your visa, so those kind of things can be done in advance. But in our case, it's not really worth it. We may as well wait till we get there, because we need to know where we're going to be living in order to have the bank that's kind of nearest to us, where we can get into that branch and actually talk to the bank manager. So, if we end up having a house just over the border into the Granada province, rather than nearer to Malaga, then it would be no use us having a bank manager who was 45 minutes away. it would be better to have one in the nearest town, you know. So yeah, lots to consider there. Let's see, any other questions? Haley loves Ibiza too. She's hoping to hop over for weekends now and then. Roy was asking lots of questions. Yes, can you clarify, Roy? Are you still there? Clarify your question that said, is it worth, or do I need to apply for a TIE or NIE for a 90-day rental period? Don't know what you mean by the 90-day rental period. Just clarify that for me. And Liz is saying autumn is a great time to move. Yeah, I think it is. And that is partly because of the weather. You don't really want to be moving in the middle of July or August, although some people do, because imagine trying to do your removals in 40 something degrees heat if you're down in the south, especially if you need to Granada or Sevilla or Cordoba. And yes, a question from Donna. How long are we renting for? Let's just take off this Roy's message. Where is that? I can't find Roy's message anymore to get rid of it. Shan't take long. Is it worth? I'll learn how to use this system a lot quicker one day. Where are you, Roy? Let's get the other one. Just pop this one up. Oh, that's better. How long are we renting for, and how do you find a rental with a pet? Okay, well, what we're doing to start with is we are going to stay in a B&B, which happens to be owned by some new friends of ours that we've met through actually doing this site. It's Stephen and Mandy Proctor. If you've seen the videos with Stephen talking about being self-employed in Spain, we're going to be staying with them to start with, kind of as guests. And we're going to find somewhere to rent, and we're going to be renting for either 6 months. It's got to be more than 6 months, I think, in order for you to be either on the Padron or for some of the other documents. I'm not quite sure which. It's gone from my head, but you really need to rent somewhere that's for longer than 6 months on the contract, in order for you to be able to convince them that you're here to stay and get residency. And how did we find a rental with a pet? Well, there are sites like Idealista where you can tick a box under the preferences and say pet allowed. So that's how we've been looking. But of course, we'll be looking and we'll be asking estate agents when we get there. And when we're looking around, we'll be asking that question there. We're kind of flying by the seat of our pants because we don't know where we're going to end up living. And before we can get on the Padron and therefore finish the process of getting residency, we need a place to live, and we need the rental contract up and running, and we need that piece of paper so that we can prove those things. And until we've done that, there's a lot of things that we can't do. So that's going to be part of the running around when we get there, which is going to be very interesting, and you'll find out how that goes over the course of once we move at the beginning of October. You'll hear all about that. So Emily's question was, are the rules to move to the Balearics the same as mainland Spain, or do they have their own considerations? Excuse me. The rules are basically the same because it is part of Spain, but as Chris was saying, there are different rules for different areas, like for Andalusia. I think Andalusia and the Balearics are part of the same consulate, so they may have similar rules to there, but the individual provinces within Andalusia have their own variations in rules as well. So it would be good to be in contact with someone who can help you out there, who knows specifically what the rules are. And I don't know what those are, but I would say yes, it is. There are going to be differences, but the basic structure of the rules are the same. Let's see. And Roy says he's renting in Spain to check the property in areas. This is a good point, actually. And rent before you buy. This is the advice that a lot of people give. Renting in Spain to check property in the areas to see if it's right for you before moving over. And that's what we're doing by, we're staying with friends so that we can have a look around. We know basically the geographical area because we need to be within a certain distance from Malaga Airport, because that's the best one for us to be able to get to our relatives and for our relatives to get to us and our friends in Ireland and in the UK. So that's the biggest one for us. Let's see, is it worth applying for NIE or TIE before we go? Is there no advantage? Chris has said before, there's no real advantage, and of course it costs you to get the what's it called, the giving the giving the permission for a lawyer to be able to do those things for you. That actually costs you in advance, so the cost to get those things done in advance. Power of attorney, that's what I'm looking for. The cost to do that in advance is obviously to pay somebody to do that will be extra. So there's not a huge advantage to doing that in our case. Also, as well, in my case, this will suit people who are, if one of you is Irish and another one is British, so you've got an EU passport and a non-EU passport, and are going to be working, or even if you're not going to be working, you can travel over there together. But in order for Liz to get her health insurance through my being an autonomo, self-employed person, I have to have registered for autonomo before she can do her application for residency, because she needs to show that she's got health cover through me. So there would be no advantage to doing an NIE or TIE in advance, because I need to be on the ground there dealing with my application, and then we couldn't do Liz's in advance because I need to have been there and done mine. So I hope that answers your question, Roy. I've garbled it, I think, but Donna says our plan was to purchase a holiday home to move into, then rent this out when we find our forever home. This will allow us time to look. That is a very good idea, Donna. And we also thought of purchasing a place which was kind of two properties in one, where you could live in part of it and rent off the other part of it, as long as it's separated off, and then you can be kind of covered with paying your rent, with paying your mortgage rather, and that's a really good way of doing it. But thank you, Liz. Power of attorney, nice spelling, yeah. So I think those are good ideas, but you need to be sure that the holiday home that you're buying is not too far away from where you're going to live. So if you're buying that property and you need to look after it, and every week or even every 2 or 3 days you have to let somebody new in and do a changeover where you've got to wash all the sheets, clean the place up, it's got to be in the area that you're going to be. So in a way, you've got to decide in advance where to buy that one. So I think it's best to rent in advance. And a lot of people that I've spoken to, a lot of people who are living there already and have lived there for a while, say, yeah, it's best to rent in advance. I know that from moving here in Ireland, we're in a lovely house now, and we're in a lovely house and a lovely area to begin with, but we're not in that house now. Even though it was brilliant, we found that it was better for our work and better for 1 or 2 other things to be slightly closer to the nearest town, because more people then came to see Liz for massages and for aromatherapy and for yoga. So it was better for the business for us to be 10 minutes closer to town. So we ended up having to move then. So if we bought a house, we would have had to go through the process of selling that and then taking the time to buy another house. So, and we because of being self-employed and me being a performer and a musician, it was very difficult over here for us to get a mortgage for that, and being self-employed. So yeah, that's that question. And let's see. Yes, Liz says it's much harder to change where you live if you've bought a place, and you can move faster if you're not happy with the area. Yeah, thanks for that, Liz. Any more questions then before we go? We've taken the 45 minutes up, and while I wait for more questions, if you have gained some insights and some knowledge from this video, then do click on the like thumbs up, and do that in the thing just below the video rather than in the chat, because that actually helps the channel and it helps more people be able to see this video, because it puts us in the into the YouTube algorithms. So, and let's see, next week isn't with Chris. As I say, we with Chris every fortnight, every 2 weeks, but so we're going to be talking to somebody else next week, and I haven't yet confirmed exactly what the subject is going to be, but we will be here, and that will be on Saturday as usual at the usual time of 9:30 if you're in the UK or Ireland, or 10:30 if you're in Spain. One thing I'm looking forward to when we get to Spain is doing this broadcast at 10:30 instead of 9:30. So that is, I don't suppose I'll even get a lie in then. I'll still be up at the crack of sparrows and ready to do the broadcast, I'm sure. And we'll be walking the dog because it'll be too hot to walk the dog later on in the day. So there we go. So thanks to Liz again for being in on the chat and pointing out all of the questions. I hope we've answered all your questions. If there are any more, then you can ask them in the comments below the video. Please do that rather than asking them on the YouTube, on the Facebook groups. I can of course answer the questions on the Facebook groups there, but it helps if everybody can get the information all in the one place, so that everybody who can watch this can then read the comments and get answers from that too. So yeah, do put your questions in here, and any comments you've got, anything about subjects that you want to see covered in the future, please do that in the comments. And also you can check out Outtro Aromatherapy, which is Liz's YouTube group and YouTube channel. She also has a Facebook group, and she also has YouTube Yoga, where you can do free yoga and meditation classes. They're both wonderful. And of course there's the merchandise page and all of the links to all of those things, and they can be found in the description below. Is that Roy is back and he has a question? Let's quickly answer that. He says it may be a question for later on. Who in the buying process is responsible for ensuring there is no debt attached to a property and that it is not classed as turistico? Yes, that is something that we've actually covered on another video already, Roy. I'm sure we can talk about it later as well. If you have a look for that, let's see, what was the video called? It was about renting or buying a house in Spain. There is something that you can get from the local town hall, I think, that tells you all about the property, and I can't remember what that's called, but have a look for that video. I'll try and get the link for that and put it in the comments below so that you can find it if you've not already found it by then. Okay. And Liz says that'll be a lawyer. Yes, actually, yeah, that is good advice. Get a lawyer that is not the same lawyer as the person, the company that you're buying from, or the estate agent's lawyer. Get yourself your own lawyer, and the lawyer will be able to get that paperwork and investigate everything for you. So we've had a look for a lot of properties that there was one particular property that the owners that they said there's a building on the property which isn't registered to them. It's not registered as a building, and so it's not on the deeds. But they said, oh, it's okay, you can get it put on the deeds. But when we asked that question to somebody who knew better, they said, no, don't go down that route because that might not be able to happen. And actually, at the point when they rent you the property, they might find out from their HESTOR that actually all of their paperwork isn't in the right place for them to be able to rent it to you. So yeah, go to a lawyer. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you all so much for tuning in. And that's all for this week. Don't forget to tune in next week, and I'm sure there'll be a video out midweek as well as we go through that. And I'm not sure what that one's about yet, but it's all exciting. And keep on looking at the playlists. There are so many videos that will help you on lots and lots of subjects about moving to Spain. And if you haven't already, then please subscribe and click on the bell, ting, and we will see you soon. Peace and love, and here comes the music. Bye bye for now.